What is the word? Shot blasting machine or shot blast machine? To be or not to be, Hamlet would say. To be honest, I don't know, and I probably will never know, and for this reason I remain in this Hamletic doubt and I lightly give up to my ignorance. Also because there are a lot of questions that do not have an answer, a sure answer I mean, such as, for example, who we are, where do we come from, where are we headed, why do they make pizza with pineapple, and especially why hasn't the inventor been arrested yet? Who can give a definitive answer? And so, the shot blasting machine question is, at least for me, an unsolvable question. And to be honest, after all, sometimes it's also nice to admit our limits without putting everything in order. It's nice to keep some question marks and to remain in doubt. However, without any doubts, I tell you that the main character of today's episode will be just the shot blasting machine, or shot blast machine, that in the theater of ceramic has a very important role, just as Hamlet. We will try to offer a general overview about the grid application by means of dry analogical systems that therefore do not involve the presence of any kind of digital printing machine. We will focus on the different stage of the application, also offering some important details about the rheology of the glue involved in the process. I am Davide Trentini and this is Apparently Invisible, Chemistry in Ceramic. Let's start by saying that in ceramic production, the grid application is usually a wet application, since the grid is suspended in water and is applied by means of airless spray systems. That is a system that involves a spray cabin provided with a spray guns, which in turn are provided with nozzles that discharge the watery grid suspension on the raw tile surface. As we know, the grid can also be applied by shot blasting machines that are usually placed after the digital printer that discharge on the raw tile the digital glue, that can be both solvent-based or water-based. In the first case, we can talk about wet analogical application, while in the second one, since the grid is not suspended in solution, we can speak of dry digital application. Between those two scenarios, however, there is another option that is the subject of today's episode, and that is the dry analogical grid application. In fact, if we exclude the digital technology, the dry grid application can be developed also by means of traditional analogical system. But what kind of application are we talking about, and how does it work? We can say that, in general, this process involves 3 steps in sequence. First, glue application by means of airless spray system. Second, grid application by means of a shot blasting machine. And finally, third, a low weight application of glue that helps to fix the upper layer of the grid. The sequence of applications that we have just described, of course, require a different approach in terms of chemicals, and more specifically, the question is, what are the features that the glue involved in this process must have, compared, of course, to those of the binders usually added to the slurry, that is, the watery grid suspensions? Well, these glues are usually based on organic polymers that can efficiently fix the grid to the ceramic support. Basically, the polymers produce a cross-linking by chemically binding to the support and to the grid, and at the same time binding together the grains. They are also developed to get an excellent combustion during the firing process. What does that mean? It means that the formulation is properly developed to delay the beginning of the combustion process inside the kiln, so to produce a lower amount of semi-combusted products. We also add that since in ceramic production the experience in the field is very important, the application has been optimized over time by adding to the glue an amount of liquid glaze. I underline it, liquid glaze, specifically designed to get an excellent performance in terms of digital color rendering and at the same time to promote a perfect integration and fusibility of the glue on the ceramic support. The perfect fusibility is, after all, very important because in turn it develops a proper laying and a perfect leveling of the ceramic glass during the firing process. The liquid glaze also plays an important role in the glue that is applied on the grid before the tile enters the kiln. Just to be clear, we are talking about the third application step that we have described at the beginning of the episode. The presence of the liquid glaze is functional to avoid any grid's displacement during the pre-firing phase. What does that mean? The glue, since it is largely made of organic polymers, tends to decompose during the pre-firing steps until it is completely burned. This decomposition process, however, takes place when the grid has not begun to melt yet. So, the early decomposition of the glue, together with the incomplete melting process of the grid during the pre-firing stage, may lead to a grid displacement due to the air movement that are inside the kiln. And of course, this displacement can compromise the good result of the production both technically and aesthetically. But don't worry, because we have a friend that can help us. The liquid glaze of the glue, in fact, since it does not undergo at this stage to any degradation phenomena and therefore it resists to the high temperature, promotes an important cohesive effect, avoiding the problem. That said, let's see now which are the main rheological value that the glues must have to promote a good and proper application. First, it is very important to reach a low viscosity value to be sure that the nozzles develop a proper nebulization. A glue with a high viscosity value, in fact, just to make an example, may produce overly large drops, compromising, of course, the process and at the same time the tile. The low viscosity should be also combined, and this is the second important feature, to a low flow limit to ensure a good leveling on the tile. And why is this important? It is important because the more the glue is properly leveled, the more uniform or even will be its absorption by the following grid application. But let's go now ahead with our list by talking about the third feature that is all about the wettability. In this regard, the glue must be able to wet the grid by rising by capillary action to the higher layers of the tiles, or even better, of the grid. However, this feature, even when it develops a high performance, can sometimes be not enough to wet all the grid that has been applied, especially in case of high weight applications, such as, for example, 800 or 1000 grams per square meters. This is the second reason why the entire process should be developed in 3 steps, as we say at the beginning, including a final application of glue to wet and fix even the upper layers of the grid. Finally, we must say that the formula of the glue is always properly designed to avoid repellency phenomena between the glue itself, that in this case is water-based, of course, and the inks that are usually solvent-based. To let this happen, leveling agents and compatibilizers must be added to the formula. And now, after this long overview about the process and the features of the glue, let's conclude today's episode by making a list of the new production possibilities promoted by this analogical dry application of grid, without, of course, hiding the fact that the wet application is still very effective and efficient. So, let's see the most relevant options. In case of high weight of grid that are normally used for full fill applications, it is possible to apply a large amount of grid, reducing the quantity of water. This means that the features of the surface layer, even when it's partially removed by the lapping machine, allows you to get a total mirror effect. That means a mirror surface without light movement. We can also add, and this is the second point of our list, that the grid, since it is not discharged by any nozzle, can have a higher grain size. And this aspect, that is apparently insignificant, is very important because it allows you to expand the possibilities in terms of selection of the grid that has to be applied. Together with the amount and the grain size of the grid, we can also add that the capillary process promoted by the glue that is, its ascent from the lower to the higher layers of the grid, largely avoid the possible presence of air in the deepest layers, reducing in turn all those defects that precisely derive from the air trapped in the ceramic body. Defect that can affect the tile even after firing and that can be also visible to a naked eye. And finally, we close by saying that the reduced amount of water, unlike airless pre-applications, can also reduce all problems that could arise in the kiln during the pre-firing stage, such as, for example, the difficult and so the incomplete water expulsion from the deepest layers of the tile that can increase the tension and the pressures inside the ceramic body, producing, therefore, a negative impact on the process. And after these suggestions, even today's episode has come to an end. And I take this opportunity to remind you once again that if you want to deep the topic, you can email us finding all contacts on our website, which is ceramco.it, ceramco.it. I thank you as usual for being with us, and I also remind you that all the episodes are available not only on the main platform such as Spotify, Apple or Google Podcast, but also on our app, in which you can find other contents and that you can download for free on Apple Store or Google Play. You can find it by typing Z and S Ceramco, once again ceramco.it, or apparently invisible. And even if the beginning of this episode I made my case about doubts, now I want to assure you that the app is real and it works pretty well. Enjoy and see you soon.